we have been seeing about the control signals, and the status of the control signals have been validated and verified in the previous session, where we started with REGDST, we went to ALU SRC, mem to reg, reg write, mem read, mem write, branch, and ALU op1 and op2. You do not have to pay much for this because this is going to be anyway static for us, and we are concerned about these signals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 signals. So this is anyways going to be static. I hope you know clearly now how to set or reset. I mean assert or reset. Yeah. So as you can see, we have already given a clear instruction about how do we trace the data path. I mean, how do we understand the signals for control signal status for all these signals, like all these instructions, like the load word, store word, add, or kind of R type instructions. We have seen all those very clearly. I hope there is no doubt or no query there. If you have any queries, we can probably discuss that at the end of the session. Right now, what we are going to do is we are going to go to the next one, where I think I have completed the B type instruction also. I mean the BEQ also I have completed in terms of giving you the control signal status, where branching would be going high. This would go high. This would be asserted when you go for the branching instructions. That's what I have told you, and you can see that. In this, we are not caring about REGDXT. We do not have to worry about mem to reg, but rest of the signals will all play a vital role, and you need to remember it. Right. Now time comes for us to trace the data path in this fully equipped data path along with control signal. I would still not call it as fully equipped because we are not having something called as jump included here. We do not have jump included here. Still it is 90% fit. We are not 100% okay to call it as a data path, complete data path. Now when you draw this, how would you trace it? Don't worry about the green color stuff. The green color stuff is all control signals, and that has to be highlighted, so I have green colored update there. The orange color one is the tracing that you need to now understand clearly how it works. Right, we will go ahead with the steps right now, and I will trace it over and above whatever I have already traced so that you can easily understand. This box will come into picture because this is where you have all the instructions, and it is going to be R type instruction. So what do I have? I need to definitely use the destination register, as well as I'll read data from this and this. So you can see that this is highlighted, and this has to be 1 because it is R type. Add instruction needs RD, so the destination is set here. Now what will happen? I do not have to go ahead with the sign extend, so forget it, this part is gone. Now I read the data from the first input, I read the data from the second input, it picks the 0 here, this is 0 here, and it goes into the ALU. The first input comes here, the second input comes here, it goes into the ALU. The result from the ALU is taken and it is sent via mem to reg, and we prefer this path, and this is now highlighted. This major component is all over right now. Do you understand? This part is over. Now what is left out, sir? We need to talk about how do we update PC, how do we have some new inclusion in terms of the ALU op. Now what do we do that? For PC, what is the regular step? Let me go ahead with it right now. The PC input, we are not having any jump instruction, so don't worry about this part. No jumping, no branching, nothing happens. We have not yet included jumping, so don't worry, I have not yet taught you how to go ahead with jump. It is still on hold. So we are taking this traditional path, it goes via 0 and we keep it updated, and this loop is traditional. So nothing wrong and nothing new there. The only thing that we need to update here in this data path, where you have comprehensive data elements, state elements included, is I need to take an additional line and I need to make sure that the ALU op is highlighted. I mean the ALU control, this part works for all the instructions. So I have an updated input here. That's it. This is the only inclusion. Rest all remain the same. You can see that the ALU op is highlighted because this is new. Whichever control signal is highlighted, whichever control signal is used is not highlighted in terms of orange here, because I understand you know it. If there is a question which asks you to trace the data path as well as to highlight the control signal field, then you can draw a table here, and in that table you can mention the status of each of the control signals. Do not mess up here. Don't put 0 and 1 here. These kind of values here will be making it really insensible. So please draw a separate table and make sure that you represent it clearly. This is the best way to trace it. Now what we have done is we have clearly traced it for R type instruction, assuming it is add type instruction. I have traced that. and the only inclusion that we had here is this one. Also we are taking this path instead of the path which gives you the branching operation enabled. That's it. Now please make sure you draw all this properly for all the questions so that you will not end up in missing marks. And ALU, when it outputs 0, it doesn't matter here. So I did not highlight it. You can see that no highlight has happened here because we are not talking about the branching instruction. And somebody asked me a question, sir, how do the processor, or how does the processor get to know that what kind of instruction it is? You do not have to worry about it at all. The moment the opcode is read, it will be able to understand what is it. And if the opcode is 0 and if there are multiple instructions available under the same opcode, immediately the attention would be paid for function code, and there itself it gets decided. So there is no problem or no hiccup with respect to identifying what exactly is the instruction. Identifying instruction is the first thing that has to be done, and that will be done meticulously, without which you will not be able to trace or draw anything, and that's what we have done right now. Right, we'll go to the next one where we are going to trace the fully functional load word and store word. I'm going to make it a little large right now. The screen will be a little large right now. Just give me 1 second so that we can understand how exactly it works, and it is easy to then understand. That's why I'm trying to get it a little better. Store I'm not going to trace. I'm going to trace the load word right now. Store I leave it to you so that you guys can understand how exactly to do it by yourself. Right, so this is the comprehensive data path. Now so what are all the things that will be needed for load word? Do we have a destination register? Yes, load word loads the contents into RD. RD is very important, and load word loads it into RD. So assertion is required at the first level. You need to assert, and 0 would not get it done, so I need RD to be 1. This is the first thing that you need to remember. And all the control signals are highlighted in blue color. The most important control signal is ALU OP. So we have updated that as well. Like what I did the last time, the ALU OP has to be updated clearly whenever you are drawing it. These are the fundamental things that you need to remember. Now let's go ahead with tracing it so that you will understand it clearly, full-fledged. Right. Let's go ahead to the first part. Is it an instruction which has got a branching? No. So what I do, I take this path, I ignore, I skip this, I go via 0, I come back and I go ahead and complete it. The PC update part goes in a traditional way of adding +4, and it doesn't take this route where we have the shifting done at other end. It is not done. So the first component is over. Now let's come into the instruction. Now we are reading the instruction, so this entire box is enabled. I read the instruction, and by reading it, I get this read register 1. So what is load word? Load word is all about loading the content into a register by computing. I mean, I need to go with the destination register. By computing the content, by computing the address location, I will take that content from the address location, I will load it into a register. That's it. It's very simple and straightforward. So what do? We need to use this part very clearly because I'm going to write data. Forgive me, the pen is not working. So this part is very clear. I need to read data into it. Where is the second input coming from? The second input comes through the sign extend, and it gets converted to 32-bit, and it goes via this. I get it computer here, and now what will happen? We will get the address calculated. The address is here. I read the data here, and once I read the data, I need to read it out through this, and I come back and I load it onto the right register. That's it. The load word is all done. Now what is the next thing that we need to do? They have not asked you to highlight the status of the control signals. If they ask the status of the control signals, just draw a small table here, and in the table you got to highlight everything. That's all. Highlight the status of REGDST, branching, memread, mem2reach, ALUOP. ALUOP, forget it because you highlighted it, and I will give you the status table clearly. Memwrite, ALUSRC, and REG. That's it. So while drawing it, this is the procedure that you need to follow. Now for store word, what is the procedure? The store word will not ask you to write it back. What is store word all about? The store word is going to take the content out of a register, and it is going to store it into a memory location. So I will compute the location where I need to write the content into, and then I will write it here, so it will stop here. I am not going to get back at all, so this portion is cut. This portion is enabled. This portion is enabled. This is enabled. This is enabled. This is enabled. This is how you need to look into. Now here it will become 0 or 1. So I need anyway sign extend, so it is 1. So this ALU is highlighted. You need to highlight each and every component. So please make sure that in the data path you are highlighting each and every component. You can see that there are portions which are dull. This is dull, this is dull. That is what is showing that we have not highlighted that. So when you are drawing in the paper or when you are drawing in the interview, it is very important for you to highlight each and every block properly. Otherwise, it is going to be challenging for you. So that's it. We have traced with comprehensive data path, which I again reiterate, this comprehensive data path is only 90% complete. Why, sir? I do have to add something more to it to get jump also accommodated in the same data path. Otherwise, it's not going to work for jump. We have only implemented it for branching, and jumping has not yet been implemented. So remember it, jumping is most important. Now, I leave this to you. For BEQ, what is BEQ? I will take and compare the register content of these two registers. I'll compare, I will feed it into ALU, I'll get the result. It has to be 0 for me to proceed if it is BEQ. Similarly, I take the branch highlighted here. You can see that this branch instruction, so I have highlighted it here. ALU OP is highlighted. I take the result, and the path that I need to take here for PC is this one, the second one, SL by 2 path, and it gets updated. So that is a major difference. And remember, you got to just remember what are all the registers that you are using. Okay, R type, I'll have RS, RT, RD. Load word, I need to get the content out of the register. I need to take the content out of the location, load it onto the register after combining the content from the offset and register. Store word, I need to store the content into the memory location. BEQ, I am going to compare, and then if the things are equal or unequal based on the instruction, I need to navigate. For that, I need to make sure that I get the result out here as 0. If it is BEQ, it has to be 0. If it is BNE, it has to be non-zero. That's all. So you need to just trace it, and this comprehensive tracing is now done and dusted. We have completed the comprehensive tracing. Now where I am taking you through is to the jump. We need to get into jump. What is jump, sir? You have seen that this is the third type of instruction that we have seen. I have got 6 bits opcode. We have no change. It has to be 6-bit opcode for everything, and that's one of the compromises that we have undertaken as well. Now what is the rest of the field? The rest of the field is nothing but the address, which is nothing but 26 bits field is there, right? So 26-bit field is there. So how do we get it? 6 bits plus 26 together gets you 32-bit. So we are okay with the composition that we have got for the address and the offset. I mean address and the opcode. Now what we need to do is we need to understand how exactly to make it really accommodatable or really accustomed for jump instruction also. We need to add one more multiplexer. So I am adding one more multiplexer here. You can see that here I am adding one more multiplexer. That's one thing that you need to remember. And remember, I am adding something more here called as shift by 2. Shift by 2. This additional multiplexer will help you to choose between the jump target and either the sequential flow of PC or branch target. I mean to say, when the input comes now, it can be for jump, it can be for regular PC flow, it can be for branch. So now I will have a multiplexer which will help me in choosing, do I have to go here or here or here. This is what I am trying to convey through the inclusion of the new multiplexer. The new multiplexer is a guy who will enable you to choose between the jump target or sequential flow or the branch target. Just remember it. Rest all remain the same. Rest all remain the same. I added a new signal here called as jump. This is one thing new. This box is new. This is new. So we have added these three newly. Let me enlarge it a little bit so that you can understand it. Let me complete it and then enlarge it so that you will understand it nicely. Now, how do we compute the target address? We do not have the target address right now in hand. What we have is just a 26-bit input. Remember, what I mean as 26-bit input is, I have it here. This is given in the instruction itself, and I have only 26-bit input available in hand. But this is not sufficient for me to jump. This is not sufficient for me to declare and decide where do I have to go. So what do we need? We need to understand how do we compute the target address with which we can go to the correct location. When the condition is met, I need to jump, or when I want to jump, I will have to jump. But where do we go? How do we go is what we are going to compute. Now what do we do is, the lower 26 bits, which means the 26 bits available here will be shifted by 2. You can see that will be shift lifted by 2. So now what will happen? This 26 will become 28, right? So how do we do that? We are not doing it by other means. We are effectively doing it by just adding 0 to it. Plus 26 bits will get you 28 bits. So what do I mean is very simple. You already have 26 bit field, add 2 zeros prefixing it, and that's all, you are done. So now what will happen? Now what we need to do is a simple math. We need to concatenate the upper 4 bits of PC plus 4. What do you mean by that, sir? I have got the PC plus 4 here, and I will take the topmost 4 bits of PC plus 4. So what will happen is 28 to 31 is available here. Now I already have 0 to 27 here, and 28 to 31 plus 0 to 27 gets you 0 to 31, and that's your new location. I repeat it. I know it would be a little tougher for you to understand right now. I'll just repeat it once again so that you will understand this jumping alone easily. Now what do we do is very simple. I have got 26 bit address input with me in the instruction. This 26 bit is not sufficient. So what I need to add is I need to add 2 zeros to it. So it becomes 28. Now what will happen is I already have got 4 bits available, top more 4 bits. Remember, I am taking the higher order bits. So the higher order bits are available with me. When you add the higher order bits with the already available lower order content, you will get the complete address, and that is the location that where we need to jump. That's it. So this part is simple, and I explained you, I believe. If you have queries, I can explain you that again once again as well. Now we are actually generating the address 0 to 31. I mean the 32-bit address is what is generated, and you could see that clearly here. It is first 0 to 25. On having couple of zeros added over there, it becomes 0 to 27. And what I have is 38. I mean 28 to 31 is available here. On combining these two, I get a new address where I have to jump. And once this address is available, and if the instruction is seen to be jumping, what I do is I have an additional multiplexer here, and you could see that that multiplexer will take you through this path. That's it. That multiplexer will take you through the revised path where you need to jump. You can track it very easily. I'll explain you this once again. If this is going in the normal flow and the instruction is not jump, it will come over here, it will go on here. And if it is a branching instruction, this section will get enabled. If not, it will go in the traditional path where I can cut this section and I will go via this way, and the output will come this way. That's it. It's very simple. I'll explain you once again. I know it's a lot of content that is being poured today. I have ALU. This ALU will give you the output, and this address, I mean whatever we are computing here, is going to be helpful for us. But we have 3 options. The first option is going to be normal flow. I have got a normal traditional flow here. It will go on this way, and if everything is smooth, it will keep going this way. Finished. Now, no sir, it is not normal flow, it is branching. So this button will get enabled. I'll get it here, and I'll go on this way. So this is very smooth as well. No sir, it is a jumping instruction. So the jump instruction will get you this way. I added an additional multiplexer. This will not be run. So I'll take the output from here and I will feed it onto the PC. And now you need to understand one more point. What is this, sir? Where does this come from? What is this line? This line, if you miss, the entire story is gone, because this is called the control signal for the jump. Do you understand? This is the control signal for the jump. That's all. We have drawn the comprehensive, complete data path with all the state elements very clearly, and now this can accommodate everything. This can clearly accommodate everything, and there is an assignment for you guys which you will have to upload into the drive link that I'm going to give you today. Take this diagram. You can take this diagram. I want you to trace, add, load word, store word, branching, and jump. All these in this diagram as 5 different features. Just take this, copy paste it in the Word document or Paint. Now highlight the path, and each diagram should be different, and I don't want you to use different colors in the same diagram, I mean the same picture, to get all these explained. This is an assignment for today, and I need you to submit this by Thursday. Thursday you will have to submit it. There is no excuse for this, and this is treated as an assignment which will carry weightage in your continuous assessment as well. So what do I mean is very simple. Take this picture, or you can draw it yourself. That's actually better. You can draw it like this because it's very complex otherwise. You draw something like this. This is very easy for you. In this include the jump also. Once jump is included, trace the path for add, load word, store word, BEQ and jump, and I want you to update all these for all of them. This is an assignment and this should have just 5 pages. The first page add, the second page load, third page store, fourth page BEQ and the fifth page jump. That's all. Is it clear till now? Any queries? If you have any queries, you can stop me right now because I'm going to the next topic. Right. Let me explain you the jump instruction one more time. I hope you will be able to understand it right now. Now see that the jump instruction all comes with just two fields. The first field is an opcode and the second field is an address. This 26 bit is not sufficient for somebody to jump because all the addresses what we have are 32 bits. Do you agree? We have got only 32 bit addresses. Now what do we need to do? We need to make this 26 bit as 32 bit. How do I do it? Very simple. We can do it by simple process where this 26 bits is added with couple of 00s without impacting it much, so that we got 28 bits generated. Now what do? We need to now go ahead and find out what is the PC's address right now. The PC address, from there where we want to jump is what we are trying to compute. The jump location. See, what I have is two halves. The first half is here and the second half is here. Now I am going to combine these two. This is PC. This is nothing but the jump. So I have already computed jump and I have 28 bits ready. I'll now add the 4 bits here. So what I'll get is, I'll get the new address which is nothing but 0 to 31. The PC plus 4. Why do we call it as PC plus 4? The current PC address plus 4 input is coming from here, and the higher order bits of it. I hope you understand what is higher order bits. The higher order bits of that, the 28 to 31 bits are taken, and those bits are combined with 0 to 27. 0 to 27 plus 28 to 31 gets you 31 0. 0 to 31, which means 32 bit address. So I'll jump there. That's it. This is how it works. And once this jumping is decided, I need to add additional multiplexer out there to accomplish this process. Why do we need an additional multiplexer, sir? Because we have multiplexer which can handle only 2 inputs and we did not make it a 3 input multiplexer. So we can have the 3 input multiplexer as well. I'll tell you that a little later how to go ahead with it. Now what do we do is, I added an additional multiplexer here. The output, if at all it comes from here, you can see that the jump, if it comes from here, I take it all the way through it and I make another multiplexer here which has got 1 here, and the output will be the jump location. That's all. Here this output will be ignored and it goes via 0. So 1 will be taken through, and I added a new control signal called as jump out here to control the entire streamline process. That's all. Do you understand now? The next topic that we are going to see is called multi-cycle implementation. I'll just introduce you to this today, and tomorrow we will learn it incomplete. Now what is multiple cycle instruction or multi-cycle instruction or multiple clock cycle instruction? Remember, this is whatever we have seen till now. We did not talk about, or we did not even think about how an instruction is getting executed in multiple clock cycles. We assume that all the instructions are getting executed in single cycle. I did not even bother about clocks there, correct? Which means I just assume that all the instructions are executed in single cycle. I just close my eyes blindly and I believe that way. Now what I'm going to do is, we are going to discuss something new called as multiple clock cycle instruction. What do you mean by that, sir? Very simple. Against the traditional way of executing an instruction in single clock cycle, I am going to execute one instruction in multiple clock cycles. I will go ahead and run it in multiple clock cycles. That's the new approach that we are going to follow. Sir, why is it, sir? What is it? Why do we need it? All those things I'll explain you, and this is a revolution actually. This is a clear revolution in the field of computer architecture, which made a lot of improvements in terms of reducing the number of components. I'll show you how exactly we have reduced also. So remember, each step will take one clock cycle. For example, I have got fetch, decode, execute. In between there could be some steps. Each of these steps will take one clock cycle. This is the one important point that you need to remember. If I have 4 steps, I will take 4 clock cycles. So remember it. That's the most important point. Now, because of this approach, what will happen is a single functional unit, for example, I have a memory unit. This memory unit can be used more than once per instruction during different clock cycle. What do you mean by that, sir? Clock cycle 1, 2, 3, 4. In the first clock cycle, I read the content from the memory for an instance, and in the fourth clock cycle, I write the content into the memory. So what do you mean by that? I use the same component for 2 times or 3 times in the entire execution cycle. This is one point that you need to remember. I reiterate, if I have a memory or if I have an ALU, I may use it twice for an instruction in the entire flow. Right? It will have to use it, in fact, because we have multiple clock cycles and each stage needs one clock cycle. And in this clock cycle, if I read something from register, in this clock cycle I may have to write it back to the register. So what do I mean is very simple. A functional unit will be used more than once or could be used more than once. Just remember this point. We'll understand this clearly when we go further. I'm just introducing you with the multi-cycle implementation today, and tomorrow we'll go deeper into it. There you will understand it much more clearer. Now, what is the advantage of it, sir? This ability, this particular feature to take or to avail number of clock cycles and the facility to share the functional units are the major advantages of multi-cycle design. Why, sir? I have one unit and this can be shared by multiple instructions also, and what will happen is the utilization of this goes higher, thereby reducing the need for you to add more and more component to it. Now if you see, this is the multi-cycle implementation that we have. Whatever we have had till now in terms of data path, in terms of learning, is all shrinked. You can see that here I have got only one memory here. Last time we have got the instruction memory and data memory separately. Do you understand? And registers, we have got registers here, and this is like that, but we have got some additional inclusion here, A and B, and we have got only one ALU. How many ALUs we had last time? We had so many ALUs. Here I had to add PC plus for one ALU. There I may have to add for branching and jumping. Here I had one ALU, so 3 ALUs. Now how many ALUs I have? I have got only one ALU. That is the way we are reducing the number of components to be used, because when you are allotted or permitted to use the same component multiple times by multiple different stages throughout the flow, it is not required for you to have 5 different ALUs. Now what do you mean is very simple. I have a table. The table is being used by, say, Sriram. Now Sriram leaves the table, but the Sriram's work is not yet complete. He goes to different place to take some other component, so he leaves the table. By that time, say Sachin comes in, Sachin uses the table, and Sriram has completed the task and he is coming. Sachin has already completed the task and he is leaving to the place where Sriram was staying. So instead of having 2 tables, I had only one table, and we know that we are not going to use it in the same time. So we can use it the way that we want interchangeably within us whenever needed. This will avoid you having multiple components for the same purpose, and this will be very easy for you. Now I'll take a similar example here. I have got ALU, one ALU is there with me and this is capable. Now I am going to find out what is the address location that I need to go into for loading the content into the store word or load word. I am just computing some value address location here. This is done. Once it is done, I have the next instruction which is coming, or next requirement which is coming, which needs to add. Now while the previous computation was done, add had some other work to do. It was in different stage. But when the add comes into use ALU, this current work is already done. So instead of you having multiple ALUs, you have one ALU, and that one ALU is sufficient for you to work. But this cannot be right away achieved so easily. We need to change. This is the simplest of the multi-cycle design. This is not at all a design. This is just a block diagram. So what do we need to do? We need to go ahead with complex multi-cycle design, which I will talk about tomorrow. And you can see that here, the complex multi-cycle design is here. I'll tell you how exactly this works tomorrow. You can see that there are multiple multiplexes alone added. The biggest advantage of multi-cycle design is You add only multiplexers which are affordable instead of you adding ALUs. ALUs are very expensive. ALUs are computationally intensive. When you add 3 ALUs to the circuit, it needs more power. When you add 3 ALUs to the circuit, you add more cost to it. But instead, if you just add multiplexers, it is not going to hurt you at all. It will reduce the cost drastically when you compare to the previous approach where we had to add multiple ALUs. Now remember, this is what I told you today. I am going to change the flow, the entire flow, where I am going to have the sharing happening. I am going to share everything where we are going to have a shared memory unit. This is shared. I have got shared ALU. I've got everything shared here so that this can be shared within the instructions. So we are reducing the cost of it. The use of it actually is not easy and straightforward. So we need to add more multiplexers into the picture, or we may have to widen the multiplexer to allow multiple inputs more than 2 or 3. It can be 4 input multiplexer also. So we need to add that changes. And finally what we need to do is, we have 2 registers which are included right now in the entire learning process. One is called the instruction register, another one is called as the memory data register. Also we have got a couple of other registers added. One is A here and another one is B here. I'll let you know why do we need it. And ALU out is here, which will hold the result temporarily from the ALU here. So I need to explain you what is instruction register, what is the use of A and B. ALU out, you know it, it's default. It holds the result out of the ALU. That's it. This is the revised model which is called as multi-cycle implementation, and this multi-cycle implementation is very much followed and preferred also because this is economical. With this I close for the day. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and learn how exactly the multi-cycle design works. How do we compare it with single cycle design? I mean the data path that we have learned till now is all called single cycle design. How exactly we can draw a comprehensive multi-cycle data path like this, and with that we will complete the topics for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will complete it and we will go ahead with also understanding some new signals that are to be learned if you are planning to go with multi-cycle design, because all the signals that you have learned are single cycle signals which are not sufficient for you to handle the multi-cycle. So we will learn that also. With this I close for the day. If you have any queries you can ask me, otherwise we are all set to go.